Hello lovely people, in this video we'll have another head unit. This time is Mekede DUDU7. Since I started measuring head units, I did drawing, and people straight away started suggesting to get the Mekede DUDU7. Now, some people will say, oh, DUDU, ha ha ha. It's like, come on guys, how old are you? It's just a name, and I know somebody who passed on the opportunity to review one of these head units just because of the DUDU name, because he thought it's funny. Before we start, as always, I would like to thank Mekede for sending me this, and at the same time, I would like to thank one of my followers that gave me the contact for the representative of Mekede, because I tried to reach them for months with dead ends and no answers. However, as I mentioned in my post that I did last week, that if you know somebody from a company that you want me to review something, contact them, give me their contact or give them my contact, and we can arrange something. In this case, we have, there we go, Mekede DUDU7, 11.5 inch, so it's the same size as the drawing I have in my car. 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of ROM, and this one has an additional 360 camera chip inside. I do believe that one is separate and costs extra if you want it, so they send me this, and at the same time, they send me a Bluetooth controller for the actual head unit, because you know that it is difficult to control these head units with a touchscreen because they don't have any buttons. So in this video, we're going to unbox it, have a look very quickly, because now it's raining, so I want to do the unboxes as fast as I can. And then we're going to see all the distortion measurements that I did for this head unit. The packaging is very slick, is very nice, all black. We have this big black envelope that contains top secret documents, which are wiring diagram, what's included in the box, manual, and a warranty card. So this is not very important for us. The head unit itself is like any other typical head unit, where you have literally just a screen, so you can see all the taps that I did because I was measuring it already. I didn't remove the film yet, so the film is still on. Where am I? Hello. And from the back, we have this. So this head unit looks cool because, I'm going to turn it around, this whole thing, it looks to be metal, it looks aluminium. It kind of feels maybe a little plasticky, but I do think that it's metal. It's good for heat dissipation. We have DUDUAUTO, so I would imagine this is the place where you have that TDA chip for the amplification. This one has a built-in fan. It does turn on, and it is kind of quiet, so it's fine. So this head unit has all the accessories that you have for any typical other head unit. So you have all the RCAs. In our case, we have auxiliary inputs, subwoofer output, 2 front outputs, 2 rear outputs, and a center channel output. And this is the last one, that's going to be your rear camera in. It goes on a separate harness that plugs in somewhere there. Then we have all the other goodies like the GPS antenna, cellular antenna. We have, I think, 3 USB ports, which is quite good. One is a single one and one is a double one. You have some of these included, and you have a fascia. I do believe it's for my car. So this head unit fixes something like this, and basically it stands out from the dash a little bit like that. I'm not sure. I do believe it's supposed to be for my car, but we'll see. I think it's going to be very interesting, and might be difficult to mount this because the screen does not come off. Like with the drawing, you mount the actual unit and then you clip in the screen, but for this one is a little bit different. This feels heavier. Compared to the drawing, the screen is thick and really heavy. And as all the other head units, it has optical output and coax output, and at the same time a USB. So this USB output can be connected to a DAC. For example, you can connect a topping, SMSL, or any other DAC. And all the other stuff is very typical of any other head unit. So what can we expect? We can expect same power on the high level output as any other head unit, about 15-16 watts. Then we can expect Actually, I didn't look at the specs, probably 4 volts on RCAs, and we should expect very clean digital output. Oh, and finally the remote I want to show you as well. So this comes in a way oversized box in a pouch that you don't really need. So this remote is Bluetooth. It takes one lithium battery that goes in there like that, 3-volt lithium battery, and it looks something like this. So this goes on your steering wheel and it clips in and it holds it in place. I would imagine if you can, no, you cannot remove it. I don't want to break it, but if you would have this controller separate, you could literally with a double-sided sticky tape mount it next to your center console where you would have your DSP controller, and it has volume up and down, go back, mute as well, and this. So we're gonna have a look when I'm gonna connect this. So let me connect this to my test bench, give it some voltage just for you to see how the screen looks like, and then we're gonna start measuring. It's raining, it's cold. Okay, fire it up. I just want to show you a few settings and a few things that you have to turn off before you want to actually use it. So I did turn on the voltage that is displayed there, 13.1 volts. 13.3, something similar. It draws 1.2 amps on idle with nothing playing. This is your typical welcome screen. All the navigation is through the bottom. These are all basically your apps and everything. So already installed a few power amp because I was measuring the test tones and stuff. And then a few notes. If we're gonna go to settings, let's go about. So this one is DUDU7, 8 core. Mekede DUDU7, from all the specs, is supposed to be top of the range in almost all the Android head units. Basically, it has the latest software, the latest hardware, the best processors, basically the best that you can get. You can see it runs on Android 13. And then if we go there, and we're gonna check all the dates. So we have update 24 December, MCU 24 January, Bluetooth 24 August. Basically, this is almost the latest that you can get from Android compared to DUDUAUTO, which runs very old firmware, but it is fast, it is optimized. However, this one is the latest and the greatest. So now, if we're gonna go to sound, by default, this DTS is 4.1. If you have this DTS on, the frequency response is not going to be flat, and there's going to be some other weird stuff. So first thing you do when you get this head unit, DTS off. I do believe Joying has the same thing on by default, and it just does weird stuff with everything. You have the equalizer. If you're gonna go there, adjust value, that's your EQ value. So it actually shows how much plus or minus you wanna go. So this EQ in this regard is better than Joying and DUDUAUTO because those don't show any values. You cannot change the frequency, so it is a graphical EQ, but you can change the Q. So the Q goes from 0.7 all the way up to 8, which is good. These are some presets that nobody really uses. So in the settings, what I wanted to show you is, if we're gonna go here, there we go. Fiber coaxial resolution. So you can choose between these values, which is 24-bit 48 kilohertz, 96K, and 192K. So I did choose 96K when I have this head unit connected to a DAC. The DAC picks up as 96. However, the frequency response I still have only to 48K. So it is interesting. Maybe it has to do something with the player. So I just need to play with the settings. It's more than likely that you will be able to get 96K out because, as I mentioned, this runs on the latest software, so it should be able to do everything that you want. Another thing, somebody asked me when I'm gonna review this head unit to double check the subwoofer RCA level. So if we're gonna go to sound, advanced, there we go. In advanced, you have sub level. By default, is set at 0. So you can go all the way up to +10, and then on the subwoofer RCA, you will get the same output as on the front. I didn't play with any of those because this, to me, it looks so confusing. Like, what is this? Is that a slope? Is frequency is 612? I don't know. So I didn't play with this at all. I just left everything as it is. I just double checked that this gain is off, reverberation, which is like, I don't know, some kind of setting. So I just turned it off because we don't need anything interfering with anything. And with the gain as well, I have no idea what that is. So we're going to just keep everything off. And that's it. The screen itself looks very responsive. It has loads and loads of different settings. It has a CAN bus, so you can connect it to your car. We have all of these devices. Oh, so the controller. The volume goes up, down. This round button is going to be your home. So if you're in any kind of program, press this one. It goes to home. Then this bottom one is just muting. So you just mute the volume, which is exactly what I want. The Helix DSP controller, I don't like it because it doesn't have the mute. So when music plays, you hold the up button and it skips tracks up. If you press it, is the volume. If you hold it, it skips track. This button, I would imagine, is going to be to answer and to end calls. To be honest, I didn't check the manual yet. I will be playing with it because I love this controller. Maybe it's a bit too big, but it's nice to have some kind of tactile buttons instead of just the screen, because to be honest, like, I don't know how to adjust the volume on this. So in general, this is how it looks like. It is responsive, as I mentioned. It just has loads and loads of settings, so you have to go through everything. The screen is pretty bright in daylight. I'll have to have a look how it is in the car. And yeah, so far, the first impressions are very good. I really like it. However, the main question is, how does it measure distortion-wise? In regards to this output, I did play with it a little bit, so every time you change this, you have to reboot the head unit. So now I put on 192K. I rebooted the head unit. Now on coax, I have this SMSL DAC connected. It does pick up as 192K. However, if I'm gonna go to this player, power amp, in the output, I do have USB DAC selected. And this USB DAC is going to be, I guarantee, only on the USB out, because now we have this Open ESL active. And for this, it's limited at 48K. If I'm gonna go to whatever I'm playing, for example, now I'm playing a 96 kilohertz white noise. And here in the laptop, it's maxing out at 20 kilohertz something. So it is 48. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to disconnect the coax cable. I'm going to connect this DAC directly on a USB to the head unit output. So I plugged in the DAC into the USB port. I enabled this USB audio output, and I did select 192K. However, still 96. And now if I'm gonna play a 96 kilohertz white noise, I do have all the way up to 50K. So yes, 48 kilohertz. So this, the USB output works on 96K, on not on 192. Okay, let's jump in. I'm not going to show you every single measurement because I did high-level amplified outputs, RCA outputs, and digital outputs with analog inputs, USB input, and Bluetooth input. So it will be way too long and way too many measurements. I have literally 3 documents of like 20 or more measurements. So we're going to start with high level, which is amplified outputs. How clean is the built-in amplifier and how much power it does? Up to 1%, this is at 13.2 volts as normal into a 4 ohm static load. Up to 1% clipping, we do have about 17 watts. It does start to clip above like 14.5 watts, which is very typical for any head unit. I said this many times in previous videos that all head units are doing this power, about 15 to 17 watts. 4 times 50, 4 times 60, it's max power, whatever you want to call it, and it's just purely not true. All head units will have this power, and this is very typical of all the Android head units as well, because they do have the same TDA chip. Now, the cleanliness of the signal is, the lowest we get is below 0.05, somewhere around 2 to 5 watts. This is extremely good. and very good power level as well, because obviously you will be running very sensitive speakers if you're using amplified outputs, and you will need just a couple of watts up to 10 watts to have kind of a decent output, because if you have 90 dB speakers with a single watt, which is here, you will have 90 dB output. Two speakers, 96 dB, which is great. So this number is very, very good. We can see the THD itself, this one, the black line, it doesn't go together with the noise, but it is steady at about 0.02, 0.03. So this is clean. It's very nice. I've seen quality amplifiers that do have worse measurement than this. So well done, very good. Let's have a look at the spectrum. We're gonna skip the analog and Bluetooth, and we're gonna focus on the USB, because most of the time you will be using files on a USB stick or on the device. So yes, harmonics are quite high, especially the third one. This is at 5 watts of output, so the third one is -66, which is very high. This is not nice to see. The other ones about 84 and lower, and the floor noise is quite low for a chip amplifier. I think it's very good. So not great, but not tragic as well. If we have a look at the intermodulation distortion, yes, we do have more noise in the lower frequencies, and the third harmonic always pops up, even in the 1 kilohertz tone third harmonic, and intermodulation as well, 60 plus 7K. It is -66, so again, not tragic, but not great as well. At high frequencies as well, this is a bit surprising that it does have quite respectable performance at high frequencies, but nothing really magic. Chip amplifier is at its best. Second thing we're gonna have a look is the RCA output. So this kind of surprised me. In regards to the output voltage on the front and rear channels, up to 1% clipping, which is here, we do have something about 4.8 volts output, which is very good. The cleanest we have up to 4.4 volts, so we can say that is 4-volt output at its cleanest, and the cleanliness of these RCAs is very good, 0.01%. The THD itself, which is here, at lower volumes like 1 to 2 volts, here you can see it falls down to 0.002, which is a very good result. The distortion is very low, just a little bit more noise compared to like a DSP or something, because DSPs would be somewhere here, 0.001. So the RCAs are great. Now I'm gonna very quickly touch the subwoofer RCAs. The subwoofer RCAs, I did measure this. So exactly the same voltage. We do have 4.8 something and 4.5 volts, very, very clean. It does have a little bit more noise and more distortion. However, this subwoofer output is a full range output. I'm gonna show you here. This is a subwoofer frequency response. It goes all the way up to 20K. So basically all RCAs on this unit are full range. If you cross it, it's going to be a subwoofer, but if you don't cross it, you can use it as a separate output for, I don't know, center channel, whatever, but there is a center channel. THD versus frequency at 1 volt, we do see that everything is dominated by noise, and the THD is so low. You can see here it drops down to 0.02 and below, so the distortion is extremely good on the RCAs. This is a spectrum on the RCAs at, I believe, 1 volt. You can see there's literally nothing. Super clean wave, just the third harmonic, the fifth and the 7 a little bit, but you can see below 95 dB. So RCAs on this thing is super clean. Intermodulation, exactly the same. Very clean. Just one little blip on the third harmonic, -90 dB. Super clean. High frequencies, exactly the same. We do have the lowest harmonic at -65. So in summary, the RCAs on this thing is very clean, and it doesn't really matter if it's a subwoofer RCA or any other channel RCA. Now here I'm gonna touch the Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is aptX HD codec, and you can see this is 1 kilohertz tone on RCA output, and it's clean. is kind of almost the same as we have with the USB or analog output. So the USB, for some reason, the analog, which is auxiliary input, if you use that, the noise is a bit higher, but there are less harmonics and anything. USB has lower floor noise and a little bit more of, I don't know what this is, just random stuff. And on Bluetooth, you can see the same. There's nothing. It's very clean on Bluetooth. On Bluetooth, even the intermodulation, yes, at higher frequencies, we always have more noise with Bluetooth. It does play up to 20K. So on Bluetooth aptX HD, we do have frequency response up to 20K. And it is like -64. This noise, the lower frequencies in the modulation is amazing as well. Second harmonic -80, the third one is here. Again, a little bit more noise at the higher frequencies. So Bluetooth on this thing is very good as well. And finally, and most importantly, let's talk about the digital output. So again, I do have a lot of different measurements because I measured the coax output, the USB output, and using internal player that is pre-installed in the head unit. And I did measure using power amp because power amp has settings that I showed you previously that you can select the output and the sample rate and everything else. So I'm going to show you this. This is coax output on the head unit. 1 kilohertz sine tone using the internal player or power amp is the same. However, if we have a look at the intermodulation 60 and 7K, this is using the internal player, which is still good. It's like -100 and everything down. But with power amp, you have this, which is a, I want to say, much better result. Yes, we do have some weird noise happening here, but like at lower frequencies, we do have much less noise. And we have a similar situation with 18 and 20K intermodulation. This is the internal player and this is power amp. So using an external player such as power amp or USB player or whatever player, probably you will have better results than using the internal built-in player for playing music files. In regards to the actual measurements, like 1 kilohertz time tone on both of these is the same, and we do have 0.003 THD plus noise and 0.0003 THD, which is basically nothing. Now on coax, on optical, we do have frequency response capped at 48K. So let me show you this. Just ignore the levels and everything. This is white noise played in the player, and I was trying quite a few different settings. So on power amp, using coax output, it doesn't matter the setting, you will have 48K capped, and you can see up to 20K, and then it drops off. It doesn't matter what pink noise you play, 48K, 96K, or 192K. However, when you switch from the coax output on the USB output, we do have this. This is 48K. This is 96K. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. And this is 192K. So even if you select 192 in the settings, it's still capped at 96. Even the DAC shows as 96 for some reason. So I don't know, it is an experimental feature as it's mentioned in the manual, but we do have sampling rate of 96K on USB output only, not using coax, not using optical. You have to use a separate DAC or a digital to digital converter such as SMSL PO100 Pro that I'm planning to use with this. And now if we're going to compare the spectrum of coax output on the head unit and USB output via a DAC, we have this big difference in noise. Now I'm gonna stress this, that between these two you won't be able to hear absolutely no difference. So either you're going to be using coax output or you're going to be using a USB output on this head unit. There will be no audible difference. The only difference is measurable. And the difference is quite big, to be honest. On the noise floor, there's no harmonics. Basically, maybe this is harmonic, but these harmonics are from my DAC because I was measuring analog output. If we're comparing intermodulation, the yellow one is using coax output and the purple one is using USB output. You can see that using USB, there's literally absolutely nothing. Minus 140. This is my DAC. This is basically just measuring DAC. And higher frequencies as well. This is what we had using coax output, and this is what we have using USB. So let me just remove this. You can see absolutely nothing. Minus 120 and floor minus 140. So very quickly, just to summarize, this head unit has very typical amplifier, exactly the same as you're gonna find anywhere else. It has very clean RCAs. I want to say cleaner than most amplifiers, which is great to see. And it does have more than 4 volts output. So if you're using this for RCAs feeding directly into the amplifier, it's going to be very, very good results. THD wise, it's almost as clean as a quality DSP. So you will be limited only on the DSP adjustments that you have in the actual head unit. But cleanliness wise, it's very, very clean. And in regards to the digital signal, there will be absolutely no audible difference between using any of the digital outputs such as coax and optical, or using a USB output into your own device. You're not going to be able to hear anything, but using USB, you do have 96K sampling rate out, and you will have much lower floor noise. So this is absolutely the best that you can get. And you can see these numbers. These numbers are the numbers of my DAC. It absolutely doesn't influence anything. So if you have quality DSP such as Helix that has a 96K sampling rate, probably you would like to run USB output just because why not? But if you have a cheaper DSP such as Down for Sound that is capped at 48K, there is absolutely no reason you to use USB output because you will be limited to 48K anyway, and the difference between this and this is going to be absolutely not audible. So in summary, this is a great head unit. I will make another separate video where I will be comparing all three, a Toto, Joying, and this Mekede head unit. I will be highlighting strengths and weaknesses of each of them, and I will compare directly the measurements between all three head units. But for now, I cannot wait until I'm gonna put this in my car just to see the software, just to see how responsive it is. Measurement wise, it's a great head unit. Highly recommend it. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.